She's the lady of the house.
What's this? Van Helsing 2? Is this a little known sequel to the Hugh Jackson movie Van Helsing? Well, it is if you go to Germany and you get that particular release of the DVD. So Van Helsing 2, probably best known as The Last SECT, a 2006 vampire movie that stars David Carradine and Natalie Brown. You've also got Julian Richings, who you may know from various kind of TV shows. And yes, it's kind of been packaged as Van Helsing 2 because David Carradine is actually playing a member of the Van Helsing family. And yes, this is a vampire movie, and it effectively follows this one played by Natalie Brown's character called Sidney, who is a reporter that is doing a story on this kind of dating site that it caters more to women. And little does she know that this dating site is actually ran by a group of female vampires. At the same time, you've got Van Helsing and his kind of two assistants investigating the same organisation. Inevitably, they will kind of all end up crossing paths. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, let's discuss what works with Van Helsing 2, also known as The Last SECT, and also known as Vampire Hunters in certain circles. Okay, do you like cheese? Delicious. Nice cheesy movie. Yes, if you like cheese, then you may want to check it out. This kind of looks like a porn parody movie without the actual porn. There's no nudity in this movie, despite it being very much a kind of a lesbian vampire style type of film. So yes, it's cheesy, it's hokey. Some people like that, I have to say it. It does have a certain sort of gothic, trashy charm to it, I would say. All of the vampires, they're all kind of sitting around in kind of ornate furniture, all in kind of their, goth garb and everything like that, all kind of being very sort of upper class and emotionless and things like this. So there is that sort of stereotypical kind of aristocrat style of vampire here, and it's kind of quite fun in that respect. In that regard, some of the kind of the aesthetics. We do have male vampires, but they are treated as kind of like lumbering, zombie-like soldiers who are much more kind of monstrous. But the VFX work is a bit more kind of, overdone with those to a degree. I actually quite like Julian Richings in this movie. He plays the kind of the hatchet man for Van Helsing, who is this kind of like soldier. And he actually has, he's quite a kind of like a slender guy. And, he played Death in Supernatural, if you're not familiar. And, he's quite a sort of fun character who is the kind of like the boots on the ground type guy. But because he's so slight, he's not exactly like special forces or something, but he has these almost like dance-like style kind of combat sequences where he's kind of sort of glides through these sort of vampires and very kind of like strategically sort of tries to kind of like stab them and things like this. It almost looks like he's dancing. So I actually kind of quite liked his sort of character. He doesn't have much of a character, but I quite like his sequences because it's kind of they're quite fun. David Carradine, I mean, he's sort of getting on an age at this point when this was made. He's always kind of quite charismatic, I feel. And it's true of this one. He's not asked to do a whole lot here, but, his kind of delivery of some of these lines, the dialogue isn't great, but David Carradine's kind of delivery of them, it's still kind of quite fun, I have to kind of say. And if you like that sort of vampire, lesbian, kind of aesthetic with lots of attractive women looking longingly at one another and like passionate lesbian kisses, then boy have I found the movie for you. Let's talk about what does not work. Okay, so let's talk about the David Carradine sequences first of all. So the vast majority of his sequences is him sitting around his office with his other associate, this kind of younger guy, and giving exposition. That is mostly what he does until the finale, when you actually see him you know, on his feet and kind of walking about in the vampire lair. But the 90% of the runtime is Van Helsing talking to his associate, giving exposition about what's actually happening about vampire lore, how to kill them, all of this kind of stuff. And then this other guy talking about the modern internet dating and how they're kind of, these things are connected and stuff like that. It is some like so clunky exposition scenes, and the dialogue is terrible. I mean, they say David Carradine does what he can with this awful looking dialogue, I gotta say, but it's not great. And then some of the acting as well is not on the strongest. His assistant is really poor, to be quite frank with you. And some of the kind of the other kind of like vampires, they're just like hamming it up just a little bit too much. And I get they're all supposed to be mysterious and gothic and all of this kind of stuff, but it's so hammy. There's just some like stupid sequences in this movie. When we have our character of Sidney, played by Natalie Brown, who is, I suppose, our main character, our protagonist. She goes to the offices of this kind of dating site, not knowing that they're vampires. She takes her kind of male photographer, and this male photographer sees this kind of woman, another vampire, we presume, kind of walking along, and kind of ends up just sort of dancing with her. And of course, there's music playing and stuff. It's just so cheesy. You think, well, where is it? You know, in reality, we can hear the music as we're watching the film, but there's not going to be music playing because there wasn't music playing in the scene. So you just got to imagine them dancing around with like no music and stuff in this kind of hallway of this building. It's just stupid. Yeah, it's actually quite a slow film. It's fairly boring, to be brutally honest with you. It's just a lot of kind of conversations in rooms with very clunky dialogue and delivered quite poorly at some point. And then the crux of the story is the character of Sidney, played by Natalie Brown, who is no stranger to vampire stuff. She was in The Strain, and David Carradine was in, of course, Sundown Vampires Retreat. So everyone here has had sort of, horror experience. But it's like, will she, won't she? Will she, won't she? She's going back and forth between being sort of seduced by this kind of female matriarch vampire, and it's great, my life so sort of anyway. Yeah, it's just not a particularly interesting movie, unfortunately. So there's a few little highlights in this movie that I would say, okay, I kind of enjoyed that sequence. I kind of enjoyed David Carradine, even though he's not given a hell of a lot to do. Everything else is pretty forgettable, to be honest. A 3 out of 10 for me. It's not a good movie. A few scenes. The Julian Richardson scenes are the best, but I don't know if they're on YouTube, but yeah, it doesn't make for the film. 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time.